Hello, hello, hello. Hello, hello.
Hi, everyone.
Very cool. Good to see you. So we had a little bit of that, working remotely tech challenge, and we're ready to go. We're ready to go. There'll be so much value. You won't even care that we're 7 minutes late. So we're so glad you're waiting. Thanks for hanging out. I'm excited to cover this. Lane, anything you want me to share before I get started and share my screen?
I just want to welcome everybody to the wonderful and beautiful V5O community. Get new business using LinkedIn. I've always anybody that was getting business using LinkedIn. So I guess we're going to find out how we're all going to up our game and start getting business using LinkedIn. So we're already 8 minutes in. We'll make it up. Let me hand it over to Catherine Brown. Thank you so much. Take it away.
Super cool. Super cool. So glad to be here with you all. So today we're going to do part 1 of 4 parts. I see my friend Becky's here. So we have some people new to V5O that are welcome. So I don't mind a bit. In true V5O fashion, if you would like to share your LinkedIn profile and introduce yourself to one another, I think that'd be cool, because not everybody is in our community regularly. Some people are new and trying out V5O because of this 4-week course. And so please introduce yourself to each other while I get us started. So today's lesson is about first starting with your profile, creating a clear LinkedIn profile. What do I mean by that? Well, let me dive right into it. LinkedIn, we have a couple of goals when working on LinkedIn and using LinkedIn as a tool. I've heard people refer to it as a virtual cocktail party. I like that in terms of starting conversations and meeting people. I've heard people say, oh, no, that's not professional enough of a reference, Catherine. You should say it's a virtual trade show. Okay, it's a virtual trade show. Great. I've also heard some really stunning statistics. For example, I really enjoyed this book. It's called Being Human. So you can see why I would like it, right? Being Human, Marketing and Social Selling in a Digital World is the last part of that. But the author's name is Sudhir Kumar, and he is a digital marketing expert. He just wrote this book called Being Human, and he has cited tons of research, including from LinkedIn and other analysts, and it's saying that for B2B sellers, that LinkedIn is second only to your company's website as the most commonly looked at platform to learn about a company. So when we think about ourselves, if you are in business development for your company, then you're definitely, and you're B2B, you're probably on LinkedIn in some form, or no, you should be. But what I think is so interesting is that what the stats are saying about LinkedIn and why it matters for our life right now is that even if a person is another kind of employee, they're not in business development / account management, that LinkedIn having a profile for other kinds of employees, and for those employees realizing, you know what, people are still coming to look at my profile, wondering how my company could help could help them or not. Isn't that interesting? Like, what if you're an accountant, right? Or what if you're an attorney? Or what if you're in something with supply chain? What we're seeing is that I think because of people having diminished access to people face-to-face, as well as globalization and people just buying and associating with and being able to have business relationships across the world, people are using LinkedIn even more. And I know you're here because you want to optimize doing that better. So whether you think of it as an online cocktail party, whether you think of it as a trade show, or whether you're like, you know what, this is a sales tool, all of those are true. And so we want to get to be better at it. And the first stage of getting better at that is making sure that we're actually really clear how we're describing who we are. So that's the scope of our time here today. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to teach a little. I'm going to pause and take some questions. I'm going to teach a little, pause and take some questions. I'm going to do that like a group coaching, because Otherwise, I'll go for 30, 35 minutes before you get to ask a question. And also, you need to know that when I lead, I am going to have trouble watching the chat and teaching at the same time. So part of my method to my madness is if you want to put your question out there, then when we pause, you can read it back to me, okay? Because I can't watch that and think about where I'm taking the conversation. So I'll pause periodically for your questions about what we've covered so far. All right, so first things first, we're looking at our profile first. We're going to cover 3 things to do. And some of you might have seen, I have a webinar on this topic, and some of you I know have watched the 3 common mistakes people make with their profile webinar. And this is going to be even more examples and be a little bit more depth. Plus you have a chance to interact with me. So I've beefed that up, and this is more than what you might have seen with that up until now. Quick tip number 1. First, we're going to talk about our headline. Now, when I'm saying the headline, I mean the words around your picture. And in former LinkedIn days, like if you go back 15 years ago, that was simply your job title. Because remember, LinkedIn started as, or maybe you don't know, maybe you're younger and you're just coming in and you haven't been a LinkedIn user for a really long time. You might not know. It was a resume site. And the first people to pay to use LinkedIn were recruiters. And so it's still used widely for recruiting today, but it's used for many more things as well. And what's happened is, as the evolution of the purpose of LinkedIn has grown, so has what you should do with your headline. So first, I'm going to show you an example. And this poor person, I literally just Googled some titles and pulled up a photo. So please don't tell this person that we used him as an example of what not to do. Okay, but I'm going to show you an example of what not to do. Don't do this. We have a fuzzy picture. Poor Larry. Okay, I don't know Larry. You'll see he's a third connection from me. Poor Larry. It says senior drill bit repair technician. Poor Larry's only got 29 connections, and he's got his direct title, and he's not using the banner space for anything. It's got the default blue line. So there's a whole bunch of reasons this is not great. But one of the reasons I want to highlight to you is because he's using this like a person would in 2005. And I'm not trying to be a jerk when I'm saying that. I'm just saying whether you maximize your headline space tells others that you're kind of with it, like you're with the cool kids, okay? And just having your title is not very helpful to the people we want to serve, because titles can mean different things to different people. For example, let me pause, ask you to unmute yourself, and just to illustrate the point, let me tell you, let's say your title inside your company is account manager. Take yourself off mute and tell me, what do you think a person does who's an account manager?
Sales.
Maybe.
Anything.
Right?
Grows accounts.
I have no idea.
Yeah, no idea.
Inside sales.
Inside sales. I think farmers and customer service, actually, like in the farmer sales sense. I think major account management, but not new business development. Like that's what the word means to me. But great illustration, right? That just came to me. Like there's all kinds of words that mean things to you that may not mean something to the person you want to serve. So one of the things I want you to think about is this idea of a hero and a guide. So some of you have been able to read my book, How Good Humans Sell, and some of you haven't seen that yet. And that's super. I'd love if any of you would be so kind to put that title in the chat for me. That would be so great if you've not yet seen it. But chapter 8 in How Good Humans Sell talks about this idea of a hero and a guide. Some principles that we want to show that we understand in the way that we fill out our LinkedIn profile and the way that we go to market with our brand through LinkedIn is we want to show, number one, we understand that we're not the most important person in the story. Now, that sounds weird because people are coming to look at our picture, right? They're coming to read about us. But remember, everybody's always asking this question, what's in it for me? Like they're coming curious because they've got problems they want solved. And most likely, according to Sudhir in his recent digital marketing book, this is the second most common place they're going to go besides your actual website to say, can this person help me? So LinkedIn has become more of a sales page for most of us than it is an online resume. Now, we still have the section down below that actually is a resume, but above, with the way we describe our headline, with the images we use, and with our about section, which we're talking about today, that needs to be very others focused. So the first principle I teach around that is to say, you are not the hero of your prospect's story. Okay, you're responsible for yourself and they're responsible for themselves, but they're looking around saying, who can help me with the problem I'm having? And in that way, in our particular domain, we are a guide. So just like in Star Wars, you've got Luke Skywalker. I'm talking about original Star Wars, 1977, not the later ones. Luke Skywalker is the main hero of the story. He's a young guy. He knows he has a great destiny in his life that needs to be fulfilled. He's not sure how to fulfill it. He meets Obi-Wan and he meets Yoda. You are Yoda. You are Obi-Wan. You want to write your headline and your about section as if your buyer is learning about how you can help from those words. If you don't do that, you risk using words like account manager, which are unclear to other people. And why are you on LinkedIn if you don't want people to be able to connect with you? That would be crazy. So we want to talk about how we help our prospects, even in this section. So I'm going to illustrate for you what that might look like, and then I'll take some questions on this first point. So we don't want to do like Larry did. Poor Larry. No one tell Larry that we used him as an example of what not to do. I don't think he's going to mind since he only has 29 connections. He's not very active. Okay. Everything we do has to pass the 80-year-old grandma test. What that means is there's no insider language and no confusing terms that only people in your industry would understand. You want to, quote, dumb it down a little bit, not because you're not smart, but because you want to make it easy for people to buy from you. Why? Because you're a guide. You love the people you serve. You want to be of service to people. That's why you're here. So we don't want to accidentally have unnecessary obstacles in the way. So here's some examples of how I'm trying to be a guide. The part I want you to focus on mine is under Catherine Brown. So I've got Catherine Brown, she, her, and then I say sell more without the sleaze or cheese. So I keep that because people like the sleaze or cheese. I always get comments about that. It's a conversation starter, but like, what do you want to do? You want to sell more. Then I talk about me. So first I talked about them, then I talked about me. I say, I teach good humans to sell. I have corporate and solopreneur sales training. I'm a common podcast guest. I like to be on podcasts. Please ask me. And by the way, here I am on Clubhouse. So if you're on Clubhouse, you can follow me there. So I've used almost the maximum number of characters a person can use. Let's look at a couple of excellent examples that are not quite as long as mine. This is an example of another person who is a business owner. My friend Preston is a management consultant. Those of you that know this terminology, he is an entrepreneur operating system. He's an EOS implementer, and he can help people walk through the traction methodology. But you don't have to know that to work with him. I just know that because I know him. He's saying, do you want to get fit? Which is kind of clever with his picture. And he says, what do? I delete chaos. I help you earn more, and I help you fall back in love with your business. That's kind of interesting. Okay. My opinion is it could be even a little bit clearer. I don't quite understand how he's going to do that, but I really appreciate that it's focused on the benefit that his prospect will receive, as opposed to saying management consultant. He could have said management consultant, but he's focused on being a guide, which I appreciate. Let me give you an example of someone who is an employee of another company who had to get his profile approved. Okay, some of you work in financial services, friends, you're in highly regulated industries. Well, so is my client, the Baker Group. So my friend John Parker, he's a broker, he sells bonds to banks. And so how does he describe how he helps? He says, helping financial institutions with investments, interest rate risk, loan participations, funding, and regulatory guidance. That's pretty cool, right? He doesn't actually ever say broker, because even the word broker could mean different things to different people. So I thought that was really well done. And he got that approved per his compliance department in a highly regulated industry. He was still allowed to say this, and in this way he could be the guide. I thought those were really lovely examples. So I've showed you 2 examples of people who have their own business. So people like me have total freedom of, what we say, assuming it's, moral and legal. And then John is an example of someone from a highly regulated industry, but he still found a way to not be boring and to do more than list his title. All right, so let me go ahead and just pause, because I'm going to go on next and talk about your about section, which is a big section I'm going to teach around. And before we dive into that, I want to see if you have questions about what I've shown you so far on the headline, or just other questions about headlines that come up in your head. So just I'll stop share and try to watch the whole screen here. So go ahead and unmute yourself and let me know if you have a question. Brian.
So the one that you were just showing, if you're on LinkedIn and you're looking for a broker, would you find him, since the word broker is not even in his title?
It's a great question. It looked to me like I don't think all of the things he listed, based on what I know about what the Baker Group does, I don't know that he had to list all the verbs of the ways he helped. He could have done that as well, right? Is that what you would advise, Brian, that he also still—
I was just looking at it because, I mean, for me, I had my tagline, I had digital marketer, and then when I put CEO upstream marketing, I started getting real quality type people wanting to connect with the CEO. So that was kind of my question, was if they're looking for the CEO, they're looking for the owner, if they're looking for somebody in particular, rather than just looking for web design or something like that, do you put in the title if you're the owner or founder of the company?
That's a fair point. I think that that's a fair point, Brian. And I guess my part would be to say, you can use as many characters as you can fill. And if, the only risk is that I'm not even sure all their buyers call them brokers. Like, that even could be an internal term, so that'd be a question I would ask. I literally don't know the answer, but I think you make a great point that maybe there's a way to do title and some helping language. I want people to change from thinking about the top part as a resume and realize you could say broker down below too. You have a whole resume at the bottom.
Catherine?
Yes, Joe.
So right now, and I think of a lot on this main line as headline because I'm constantly changing it, right? Always thinking about my prospects' shoes and the other side of the computer. What do they want? What would gravitate them towards my profile or make them engage? What do you think about adding humor into this line to make it a little more memorable and less of a profile objective on a resume? Because that's kind of like what I have now.
So I like humor. I think it depends on the industry you're in. And again, if you're in a highly regulated industry, that that'll never fly. But
Right.
part of why I keep the sleaze and cheese is because I would say 1 in 20 people who connect with me say, "Oh, I really liked that." Like it is a marketing. It's true, and it's a marketing tactic. That's a hook. So I'll give you another example, Joe. I had a guy that I connected with. His part of his headline said. Like, this wasn't in his about section, it was in his headline. It said something like, most rejected TEDx speaker to date.
Yeah, I saw that one too. Yeah.
And so, of course, is the first thing I wanted to ask him about, when we did a Zoom call, because I was like, well, how many of you applied to? And then what was so interesting is, instead of me thinking he was a loser, I was like, wow, you are so brave to keep going. That's amazing. So, he was being truthful and kind of clever there, I think. So I think that if your industry can call for that, I think it's fine.
Yeah, I love that. I'm going to run it by and make sure it's approved and try to think of some funny one-liners that is relevant to what we do.
Well, maybe yours is like, practicing using my own equipment or,
I was thinking about doing, I've seen this kind of as well. It's almost like a template for a lot of different ones, but it's kind of like saying, I design an outfit fitness center. Sometimes they're really nice. Like, it's sarcastic, like all the time they're really nice, but you're standing out by saying sometimes they're nice,
Yeah, or you could say I design fitness centers and sometimes I use them too.
Yeah, something like that.
Right, like do you drink your own medicine kind of thing?
Exactly. Yeah, that's smart. So I love the insight.
Something like that.
So,
anybody else?
Catherine, so what you're saying, I guess, in the opening there, I'm looking at my LinkedIn on my laptop here. Under your name, you don't think putting the name of your company or anything like that is as important as really identifying some aspect of what you do for the prospect and then something about you. Is that kind of what I'm hearing?
I do, Harvey, because also you could use, and again, if it's okay with maybe you're the decider or whoever's the decider, you can use your banner. The big fat picture at the top is where you can list the company name. So because of that, I feel like relisting the company name in the headline, it's a shame to give up those character spaces because you can list that in the photo.
I just have to figure out how to get it up there.
Sure, sure.
I'll
And what
help
you
you,
can
Harvey.
do, yeah, we can help you. That's a,
We don't
that's
have
a,
to go over that now.
yeah, that's a Canva template, and a lot of those app companies will have it. They know that it's a social media banner size, and we can help you with that. But great question. Like, aren't there ways you could talk about your value proposition and the benefit to people there when you can use the, you can use the banner for something else?
I see that.
Mhm.
And I guess another question is, what level of participation would you recommend people to be in when it comes to LinkedIn? I mean, they have obviously the free and then Premier, and I mean, I don't know what other levels there are.
I mean, I think that if you want people's contact information and you're going to use InMail a lot, then you probably want to be at Premium, at least. I was at Premium for over 10 years, and only when I decided to start creating sub lists based on people's geography and certain marketing campaigns I wanted to start, only in the last couple of years did I go to LinkedIn Sales Navigator. So I think if you are an owner seller, for most people, free to Premium is totally sufficient.
Catherine, another quick thought here. What do you think about adding, and I know you have some contact info up there, calls to action in your headline or your cover photo on LinkedIn?
Yeah, I like that. And I think the about section is another place you can have that too. So if you can have a bit.ly link, I think it's fine.
Great.
Kind of like on Instagram, you have Linktree, right? So that's how you can add a bunch of stuff on IG is by having a Linktree.
Sure. That's great.
Okay, well, I'm going to keep going then. So now we're going to cover this big mama of a section next that I get really excited to talk about, because we're talking more about that hero and guide and value proposition. So next we're going to talk about the about section. So one of the biggest mistakes that I think people make in this section, again, and this is not to embarrass anybody or, or be a jerk or whatever, it's to say, if people have been in LinkedIn for a long time, they think the about section is the summary of what's below, because it actually used to be. So it's where, where you would say, especially like people will do this in the third person, right? They'll say, Harvey has X years experience with financial services, blah, 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 blah. And it's almost like a resume writer wrote it for you or something. Harvey, I'm not looking at yours. I don't know if it does that. Okay. So that the about section, here's the weird thing. To be really using LinkedIn as a sales platform, you want to treat the about section as if this is Brian Bearden writing your website so that it makes your phone ring. Okay. You want to treat the about section as precious a resource as you do the top half of your corporate site, where you want someone to skim and understand how your company helps people, how you help people. It is a waste of real estate, of valuable real estate, to restate all the stuff that's below, because the stuff below you can't affect. You can only fill in dates and titles and whether it's your present company or your former. That's the resume. So when we think about the old newspaper analogy of what was, with a paper newspaper, what's considered above the fold or below the fold, the top part of your about section, and I'm going to show this to you in just a second, but the top part of your about section is above the fold, meaning in newspaper terms, it's the most valuable real estate. And so we want people to read that, to hook them, to have them understand how we help, and to keep reading. If you start out with your authority and your experience and you make it all about you, you're really reducing the chance they're going to keep reading. Why is that? Because this is the second most common place people go besides a corporate website. If I'm already in LinkedIn and I'm going to do a sales call with someone, I don't go to their website, I go to LinkedIn. I look up their profile and I read the about section in their profile. I may or may not click on their website. So that's how much I use the tool as a seller. So using about really wisely is important. Now, the principle I want you to keep in mind is that we talk about them before me. Them before me. I like to talk about this in selling. What I mean when I say that is make the first sentence or two be about the person you serve. You either list common problems they have, or you list what they're hoping to envision. So if you're our friend Amir and you're helping people paint a financial picture they really want, then you're going to use imagine kind of language about where they want to be. And then he's going to talk about how he helps people get there. Yes, I really mean this in the about section. Now, you can still reference that the reason you know you can help is because you've been doing it for X years, but you don't make that the first sentence, you make that later. So this them before me is really important. So I have to go over this part pretty quickly, but I'm offering you a resource that I will send to you after this call, and I am making myself available for questions in between our meetings if you really want to dig in and work on this. But what I am suggesting is that if you have a clear value proposition where the first sentence is about the person you serve and then the second sentence is about you, you can stick that in your about section. You want a short way to describe what you do, with the first sentence being about the way you help your customer. Don't lead with your product or service description. This is boring and you risk your prospect zoning out. So let me show you a couple examples of what this looks like. And then I'm going to give you an offer for a worksheet. Okay. So this is my friend Mason. Now, Mason, all of these examples happen to be marketing firms because marketers are great at doing this. And there probably are other wonderful people out there, but I just want you to know, I know these are all marketers. Okay. But my friend Mason is an employee at a marketing company. He is not the business owner. And this is still yet what he did. So it says, at Mojo Media Labs, we understand that B2B marketing is complex and can feel overwhelming. Mojo Media Labs is the premier B2B growth marketing partner who can help you connect with the right audience, focus on results, and grow your business. Y'all, this is a value proposition. In sales terminology, this is the same that you would have in a sales email. This could be the header on a website. This is his personal about section. Because he's saying, why does someone want to interact with me? Because they probably want to interact with my current employer. This is how we help. So I thought that was very interesting that even though it's not his company and he's an employee, he still did this. Let me give you another example. This is my friend Wes. Now, Wes is also a different kind of marketing consultant, but he talks about also problems people have. He says, you do business in a noisy world. Reports indicate people get thousands of marketing messages a day, and this level of chaos confuses both your customers and your employees. Without clarity, you lose people, and it's hard to get them back. I help companies amplify clarity by creating content that connects and converts. As a StoryBrand certified copywriter, okay, that's a certain credential. Some people know what it is, some people don't, that's fine. I have tools necessary to help you build a better business through a clearer message. Okay, I'm getting the idea that this guy writes, right? He writes for people. Helping you through writing doesn't stop at your customers. I'm a regular contributor to Forbes.com where I focus on what companies do to find and keep great millennial talent. That's interesting. He kind of has that niche. So as you try to further engage the largest generation in the workforce, I help you do that more effectively. No matter your need, I help amplify your business. Let's talk. So this is much longer than what Mason did in his about section, but he starts out, what's the problem that my reader's probably experiencing? It's that you do business in a noisy world. This copy, a lot of this copy could have been on a website. It's very clear about the overall value proposition they offer. Final example. Poorly designed marketing turns people off instantly. First impressions matter. She literally has all caps in her about section. Most graphic designers will deliver a beautiful layout, but don't understand that the words you use matter. As a StoryBrand certified guide, I help clients with their marketing messages, so every piece I design uses the right words to turn prospects into customers. More than design, I offer creative strategy for logos, brochures, presentations, and more, so you can benefit. So you get that idea. So here is what I'm going to mention, and then I'm going to pause, stop, share, and take questions on this section. I have this worksheet. This is an image of the worksheet that I'm going to offer you. It's got this formula that says your client has a problem, you're a guide with a plan, you want to have a call to action that leads to success. And it has like the old game Mad Libs. It has this formula. And what I want to encourage you to do is, if you're struggling while I'm talking, you're thinking, I don't know what first sentence to say before I talk about myself. This is kind of paradigm shifting. Then this formula is something you can fill in the blank and walk through. And I give a couple of examples here to get you there so that you can invert the way you might normally do this, which would probably be to talk about yourself in the first sentence. This is a very current, mindful, thoughtful marketing hook way to write these sections. And so I'm offering you, if you do the work with the value proposition worksheet on the side, and then you take that copy and insert it in the about section, that could be a tool to help you get there if this is a big paradigm shift and this sounds difficult. Okay, so I'm going to stop share. This worksheet is going to be available to you. So let me pause and let you ask me questions about the about section. Just unmute and ask.
Got to put
Catherine,
some thought into it.
what do you prefer? Do you think the longer format is better than the shorter, like the first example? What's your favorite?
So my personal opinion is that I think that Mason's is a little short, is sort of missing an opportunity. To Joe's point, he could have given away a free resource, you could have a free assessment, free guide. Sort of feels like lost opportunity because about sections can be quite long. But then I also feel like Wes's was a little long. So maybe Megan's was a good length.
Yeah.
The other thing that this is a copywriting tactic, which some of you are great copywriters and you know this, and some of you might not know this, but bullets and numbers and white space and asterisks are really helpful because people skim. And so we want to think about, what if they only read this section, or what if they only read this section? The long paragraph form is harder for people to read, and people are skimming your profile and they're deciding if they want to keep reading or deciding if they want to contact you. So I like also more white space and bullets and numbers.
I agree.
Agreed.
I have a question on that, Catherine.
Yeah, Jill?
So I love all of the points that you're mentioning, and everything is spot on. A while ago, I did take a training in this, and what you were saying, and I hope everyone is really listening, because that is just so perfect. And as you're talking, I'm looking at my profile going, oh, I can kind of tweak that a little now. And, it's like a living document, right?
Totally.
So you did mention just now, and you got my brain thinking, free assessment. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I've never mentioned that. So in my line of work, we offer for every one of our service lines that I know y'all know exactly what I do. For every one of my service lines, we offer a free assessment before a contract is signed. So with that, my about section is, it's got a lot of, wording in it. But I wouldn't want that to get lost, because I agree. You read the first couple of lines and you really just, okay, done. I know what they do. Would that free assessment be something that I would put then on my profile section, where my name and the brief description, when I do, like, reach out to me for a free assessment, or however I word it? Or would I put that like in the about section, after the first paragraph, where I state the pain point, but before I say what I do, what I
Right,
add. Because,
right.
you know, I don't want that to get lost in that, because it can.
Mhm. Yeah, I think like if you're thinking about a 2-paragraph section, you wouldn't want it to be much lower than the top of the second section, or there's just a really good chance people won't see it. I like the idea, kind of to Joe's earlier question, I like the idea of having things like that be in the headline. I just think you're so restricted on space that it would depend, the answer would be, it depends on what else you want to list, because like, I don't think people are going to click on a tiny link if they don't understand what it's going to give them. And that's going to take a lot of your character number to explain why it matters for them to click it versus in the about section. So
I'll see
sorry?
if I get any feedback. If I
Yeah.
put it right in the about section, like, oh, I saw that you do this, or
Yeah.
I'll just play with it. But this was
exactly. And I think, Jill, for
that.
you, and I think you do a great job of making this easier, because I know you practice and practice and practice it, but like what you sell is pretty complicated. What you all do is pretty complicated. And I think that you're a great example of where what we can really do in community with each other is ask someone else to look at our stuff, you know, and just help us. Like, it's really hard. I mean, I'm looking around, I know what most of you do, and it's like really tough. Or even Rob, like, I don't have your profile in front of me, but like, you know, Rob does several things. And so like which to emphasize or which to lead with, it would be very interesting for you to ask others, hey, when you think of me, like what comes to mind? And do you think the stuff is listed in the right order? Because this is the work I really want to be doing. Right. So like getting feedback from others is so helpful, because we don't know what we don't know.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Anybody else?
Good point, Catherine, too, on the white space and bolding and stuff. I always try to be concise, and it's one of my hardest things to do when I write is to be concise and be witty at that as well. So I write an email, and sometimes it takes me, 5 minutes. Sometimes it takes me a half an hour. It depends on who I'm tailoring it to. What message am I trying to convey? Are they going to get it? And we study this a lot on a psychological standpoint on the back end in my job. So I love this conversation. So in the about section, I'm always trying to shorten it. Maybe have some different headlines. Maybe, like you said, put in some caps, have the white space, bullet out. Where's your eye going to go and why? And I think it's not, I know it's not as ever easy as you may think it is. So I'm constantly changing mine. I love to see the examples of what, maybe works.
Yeah. Well, let me show you this again real quick, Joe, because I like this part. I think with these, and so I think she just needs more space, but where it says more than just design, I offer creative strategies for logos, brochures, presentations, and more. So there could be more space between can and focus, and then even a little bit more space between focus and be confident. But what she's naming is, in website language, this is called your benefit stack. Yeah. Benefits, STACK, your benefit stack. You could also, you could do this with risks. Financial people, like outlining the risk of not having a plan. This could be very powerful copy for you. You could say, you don't want to end up with boom, 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 right? So the risks of not working with you could be, for some people, risk avoidance could be as motivating to contact you as the benefit stack is. But I think you could use examples like this with an asterisk, a star, some kind of symbol, and the focus, be confident, and wow, Joe, that could be like spaced down a little bit further, because that's actually, I think it's being lost by being compressed by the more than just design. That could be even better, don't you think?
I think so as well. And if you look at how people are writing posts on LinkedIn, they're not writing this mega paragraph a lot of times where it's hard to digest. They're spacing it out, a space between every line, because you can read a lot of copy a lot faster and process it a lot quicker. Maybe even understand it better too when it's spaced out like that. So yeah, it's a great point.
Well, Joe, I really appreciate your comment too, because it's reminding me that this is an important time to say this. Your LinkedIn does not have to capture everything you've ever done, right? It's okay if you leave some things on the table. I'll give you an example. I still make a lot of money doing corporate sales training with a series, but I am looking for other opportunities. So I didn't spend all my time talking about every single thing I do. I am, like you said, it's a work in progress. I'm constantly changing and I'm constantly seeing what feedback people give me from it. Right now I'm emphasizing the book because that's still a recent thing I've done. Eventually that'll start to feel tired and I'll do something different. So don't think of it as an iterative, constant process, but it does not have to be comprehensive. And the thing is that when we get to be mid-age and older, which I'm older than you are, Joe, but you get to be mid-age and older, you got a lot of stuff to share. Right? I've got a lot of experience to share. You do not have to put it all. You can, but you don't have to. And you certainly don't have to capture it all in the about. I would say the about is, why do you want people to contact you right now? Now, I'm very surprised, Lane, that nobody's asked this yet. What do you do when you have multiple identities? Right? So Lane wants to promote V5O, but he has another job too. Right, Lane?
That is correct.
Okay, so how have you handled this?
How have I handled it? 50-50.
Yeah.
It's tough. It's tough.
Exactly. And so one thing that LinkedIn has done that's interesting is they do allow you to have multiple start date to present vocations. So if you look, I'm a partner in a couple other very small firms. They're not as big as my sales training firm, but I have a group that serves entrepreneurs. We do stuff periodically around Houston that's called Founders Compass. It's its own LLC. I've been a partner in other things before. So they'll be listed down below, but I'm not leading with them in the top because it's not the main thing I do or the main thing I want you to know about me.
One thing I'll mention, Catherine, for everybody to be very cautious, it allows you to list multiple organizations with dates that can both state to present, which if you read it shows that, oh, they're active in a couple different things. When I started to add the V5O role, I can't tell you how many phone calls, texts, emails I got. Oh my God, I can't believe you left your company. That's all you've done your whole career. No. It was weeks worth of backtracking, letting people know I'm still here. So I think you have to be really careful of how you phrase that and put it out there.
And then you can choose or not choose to update, to let your contacts know about your update. That's another option as well. But they might just still see it, even if you choose not to check that box, right, Lane?
Correct.
Yeah, cool.
Catherine,
okay.
Go
ahead.
Are we still in the
Yes.
Q&A session?
Go ahead, Amir. Go ahead.
What has been your experience during this pandemic time as to what really has surfaced with social media, LinkedIn, and other things that really connect people together? Because I feel that, for example, Joe, I'm just going to say this, unless you're a comedian and that is your profession, I've always felt that with business, stay away from humor. Because humor is like religion. You don't know who takes it how, even though your perspective might be. What have you seen to change the paradigm, the mental shift about social connections like LinkedIn and Facebook, well, LinkedIn specifically for business folks that didn't exist maybe 2 years ago?
Yeah, Amir, that's a great question. So part of what I'm like, watching what you all are asking me and already tweaking what I'm going to teach in week 3 and 4, because it's getting to the very heart of this question, Amir, which is, to me, what I see is that as more people have gravitated to the platform since they couldn't sell the way they used to before, there's literally people who have been vice presidents of sales of all kinds of companies for 2 decades that were barely on LinkedIn until last year, right? Then they finally joined, like, okay, kind of kicking and screaming, pulled into the community, and then they have to learn how to be a proficient user, which is a steep learning curve for them. And the difference to me, Amir, that's happened during the pandemic is people that know how to build trust because of the conversation they engage in other people's posts, plus what they share. There's all those people over here, and there's this huge divide, and then there's all the people who are just on it, but then are frustrated and don't understand why they're not getting connections, but they're not sharing content that makes their position and their brand and the way that they help clear to people. And I think it's almost like there's super users, and then there's people who are trying to, like, how do I want to phrase this? They're trying to use LinkedIn as a sales tool, but they're not willing to do the work to build a real relationship. And so they get on and they signed up with a tool like WeConnect or Octopus or any of these social selling tools that will automate the request for connections. And they pitch and want to have a discovery call as the very first thing they ask for. So like my selling to me on LinkedIn has amped up dramatically in the last 2 years. It's not just because I'm more visible, it's because there are more users on LinkedIn. But like their lack of proficiency and missing the idea of that trade show, I think you got a little bit late, so I don't know if you heard Amir, but I talked about how some people use the analogy of a professional conference for LinkedIn, or a trade show, or a cocktail party. You can really meet people and see who are my friends of friends and start a conversation with them if you gain proficiency and comfort in commenting and posting. So I think the disparity between who is using the tool to really build trust and who is looking for a shortcut, I think that chasm and that divide is bigger than ever. Does that answer make sense?
Absolutely, because I think that, for example, in my field, I want to say prior to the pandemic, 100% of my prospecting for my business was face-to-face connection and introduction by other people. Social media for me was, I'm on a board of some foundation, I'm taking pictures, I'm always advertising and promoting the causes that were really close to my heart. I did that very, organically, because that's just my life. So I put some of that stuff on display. Now that the face-to-face meeting completely went away for 18 months, I want to know what paradigm shift has taken place, because everybody thinks like you're just back to more normal. And I think we're so far. I mean, how do you bond with people? And I feel that, have you found that, for example, if you want to put the about section or other things that you're trying to use to describe yourself, I still feel that maybe you come up with 3 or 4 words that you really want to be associated with you as a person, forgetting completely what profession or what business you're in, because you got it first. I mean, I've read your book twice now. How do you connect with the other human being without really you having an identity of, of this particular profession that you're in?
Right. And Amir, I think the other way, so another answer to your question, again, it'll be something we will talk about on how is the selling happening on LinkedIn? What does it mean when Lane says all the people I sell to, there's some interaction that happens through LinkedIn. One of the ways that you build trust and that you do that, and I think what has become more expected, is that you really need to comment on other people's stuff and not just nice posts. Like, I can look around the room, and I'm not, trying to be ugly or point fingers, but I know who really comments and who just likes. Because the people that invest time to engage in an online conversation, I notice because I appreciate it. And so do other people. And that type of engagement makes you stand out. It's like every level of engagement. Do some people just watch but not check a box? Okay, well, those are lurkers, and you may be participating, but there's no way people can know you're participating. The next level is I like, but I don't comment. Okay, better than nothing. I notice who likes, but it'd be nice if you comment. Then there's people who comment some. Then there's people who share and comment. Whoa, that is super valuable, because you're saying this was so meaningful. Now you're giving this, you're sharing this with, with your world too. That's a super great partner thing to do. So there are these levels of engagement. And I think that as more people crowd onto the platform, you don't have to have 3,000 connections. You have to decide who your group of people you're committed to and demonstrate that's true. And people notice.
For those people that share, comment, and whatever, a lot of times they obviously took the time to read whatever it is that was posted and they have an opinion on it, rather than just they want to just click it off just to get into the loop so that somebody will see that, hey, I'm there. I guess my question is, how do you handle the invites? Like, I get not tons, but I have, like I say, I have 2,500 or so, probably more connections, and if I know 10% of them, it's a lot. And I've become somewhat selective on who I accept. But how do you handle that? I mean, I get invites from people from around the world sometimes, and I'm wondering why.
Yeah. Okay, so let's do this. Harvey, it's a great question. I want to make sure that I give people instructions on their photos, and then I'm going to stop the recording and officially adjourn, and then I can hang out and answer that, or I can incorporate that next time. Okay, because it's definitely a question everyone's going to have, and I know we started late because of some tech challenges, and I want people.
And some of us have a sundown obligation.
Okay, well, that's important. Let me share this last part, and then we'll wrap up with that, and we'll see if we still have time to talk about that. So if you are feeling like, oh my gosh, I don't know what she's asking of me, you're going to get access to this value proposition fill in the blank formula as a starting place. You can deviate from it, but it's like giving you the chord progression, for the lead sheet if you're a jazz musician. I'm telling you some direction you could go. Whether you use it or not is up to you, but it might be a helpful tool. So watch for that to come in my follow-up email. The last thing is really good picks. So he's not here today, but let me show you who I picked as a model of really good picks. Check this out. Our friend Joe. Okay, this is awesome. Now, you can crowdsource this. You can go to Fiverr for this. You can go to Upwork for this. If you don't have a person who is a branding person that's on your team, he took a regular photo and someone put it through a filter, right? Like this, I don't know how to do this, but this is not hard for someone who knows how to do it. And you might not like it. You might not like that it's kind of a slightly cartoon, slightly caricature. You might not like that. That's okay if it's not your thing, but boy, it is attention getting, isn't it? Like the colors are lovely. And so not only is this about your headshot, but also the banner. So he's saying, see how he put his value proposition at the top. Business owners work too hard for too little. Let's fix that. He just did the value proposition workshop worksheet them before me. Who am I serving? Business owners. What do? I help you fix that. So that was super clever. Now, what he doesn't have here, my suggestion to him would be there's no email address or no phone number. So that'd be like one more thing that'd be pretty cool. Obviously, you can click his contact information, but you could put that in the header as well. But I thought that was super, super well done. Let me show you my friend Elise. Elise is she's an author and speaker. And what I like about this photo is that it shows that she's super cool. She's got this cool leather jacket and she's in this industrial space and it looks like a pretty big crowd. And then all she's saying is go to elisemitchell.com. So this tells me she's very used to speaking in front of crowds. She wants me to keep her in mind for that. So 3-time CEO, consultant, executive coach, board director, author, speaker. And so I thought that was really a lovely example too. It's giving you a vision of what she wants. Now, let me give you my friends in financial services. Here's one more example. He is an employee. Okay, so you'll see that Ludo is the second connection of mine. I just thought this was a great example. I don't know him. So a certified financial planner, and I like he's got more than just financial planner on his headline. He says simplifying complex financial lives for high net worth individuals and successful executives. So that's saying in nice code language, like I work with people who have money. So if you got money and you want to work with me, I might be your guy. His company is Ensemble Capital. I don't know why he has pictures of the mountains. This is probably Colorado, Utah, maybe Montana. Maybe he wants you to ask about that. Like there's nothing wrong with it. I think it's fine to have a personal picture if it's not super personal. And then because he's in financial services, he has a very traditional headshot. That's important in this industry. Financial planners do not want to have crazy pictures like Joe Rojas's, and that's great. Like it's not wrong, but I do want to show you that this guy is smiling. And I think it's really important that you look warm. I don't know what's happened, Bill, you can talk to us about this later, but I don't know what's happened with these profile pictures where they're having people cross their arms, stand to the side and look. Like, I feel like that is a not inviting pose, and I don't understand why people do that. So I'm all for showing a little teeth. You don't have to smile as big as I do, but I think some teeth is helpful because you're trying to get people to want to talk to you. Otherwise, why are you on LinkedIn?
If you want any pointers on that, I can sum that up in maybe 2 minutes if maybe next time. You know, you guys want me to give everyone pointers on how to take a good photograph of yourself?
Oh, that'd be so great, Bill. I'll put that at the top of the schedule next week. I mean, that'd be great if you're serious. That'd be great.
Yeah, no, of course. Yeah.
Okay, super. Okay, so here's your homework, and then I will officially adjourn us and I'll stick around a little bit longer. Okay, so fix your profile. Okay, what I mean by that is go take a stab at the 3 things we talked about. Do you like what you're saying around your picture? That is called your headline. Do you know how to talk about your about section in more of a value proposition way and not just a resume summary way? And then take stock of your photos. If your picture is blurry, if you're not smiling, or you're not taking advantage of some valuable real estate with the banner at the top where you could have more contact information or list something of interest, think about and look at whether you have the internal resources available to you inside your company to help you fix that. So if you send me the link and ask me to look at your profile between now and next week, please don't send it 30 minutes before next week's call because I teach from 1:30 to 2:30 on Wednesdays. So I need it to be sent to me probably by Tuesday night. But if you want me to look at your profile prior to our call, I would be happy to. And the first 3 people who ask me to make theirs an example and say, hey, I really like mine. Can you make it even better? And I'm willing to be a guinea pig in front of the group. We're going to do a live walkthrough of 3 people's profiles. So I'm asking for you to volunteer if you want to be a person for whom we do that. And if you're like, oh my God, no, that sounds terrible, you can totally ask me to review and I will not share yours. So let me know if you want to be part of the live walkthrough, which I super appreciate because we all learn from each other and we know each other fairly well, so we can be a help to each other. If you don't want that, that's fine too. So I need to hear from you by Tuesday night if you want me to review it before the class. We will use the best photos you have and we will take advantage of Bill's offer to talk about how to take great pictures next time. That'll be really cool. So next time we're going to do some live walkthroughs so that you wrap up your thoughts about your profile. And then we're going to start moving into what is a professional brand and what the heck do I start thinking about sharing on LinkedIn. That's for next time.
What's the date of the next one?
Yes, here we go. Thanks for reminding me that. So we meet again the 22nd. And I'm sorry, I know most of you are on East Coast time. I'm on Central, so I always put that as a default. So 3 to 4 Central, but that's 4 to 5 for you. If you're not getting my weekly sales tips, I cover a lot of stuff like the value proposition in my Friday emails. So this is a link. You could take a picture, sign up, and I do an email every Friday for people.
I just want to thank everybody. Catherine's going to stick around for a few. Catherine, you have control. Stop the recording when you're finished. I have to scoot out of New York City quickly to get home for the holidays. So sent a message to everybody.